hear you're ready for your dose of reality. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dr. Quack Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayo. I want to shake your hand. You actually gave us a good one.
See?
It was such a good one. Little Mayhem's not here. I don't need anything to hide behind because this show right here really was great, and it was a good time to be a WWE fan.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great pay-per-view. If you have never seen it before, I suggest you go watch it. It was definitely one of the best pay-per-views I'd seen in 04 for sure.
And unfortunately, because of one specific reason, watch it before the cock takes it off there for some unknown reason.
Because God knows why. But let's get into it here. SummerSlam 04 took place at the Air Canada Arena in Toronto, Canada.
Yep, we got this at the time, WWF, WWE, I think they had just got the F out at this point. They were doing Raw and SmackDown, and they were totally separate shows. They called this a joint pay-per-view because this is the time Raw and SmackDown would appear together on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, and here you go. For Raw commentators, you had Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross.
Sitting way back over here, which has always been stupid when you have everybody else sitting at ringside, and they sit way back there, but...
Reasons.
Thank you. Thank you. And editor, you almost forgot that last time. Don't forget.
Yeah, do not forget that. But yeah, on SmackDown, we had Michael Cole and Taz.
Curly.
Oh, Curly.
He was, yeah, you know, Curly from the Three Stooges. I suck. He would not stop talking. He talks 1,000,000 miles an hour. He and Corey Graves, the only difference is one is 6 inches taller, and they're about 20 years age difference. Other than that, they're the same person.
Spanish commentators, Carlos Cabrera and Hugo Sanovich.
And for some reason at this time, Canada and the Canadian fans were not big fans of WWE. Most of that probably has to do with the fact they broke off the dealship with the TNT Canada, TNA Canada, where they no longer build shows in Canada through Canadian television. So the WWE fans in Canada were not very happy. And as Taz kept referring to it as Bizarro World, no, it wasn't Bizarro World. They were just showing their displeasure at Vince McMahon.
Yep, and that does happen. With our interviewers here, we had Jonathan Coachman and Todd Grisham.
I would rather talk about WWF. They did a nice little funny package. This took place in 2004, right at the end of the Olympics in 2004. And they had a little package of the agony of defeat, members of the WWE doing various Olympic events. Like Steve Regal set his coat on fire and was trying to blow it out. I cared more about that than I did Jonathan Coachman and Todd Grisham.
Yeah, on ring announcement we had Lillian Garcia and Howard Finkel.
Yeah, luckily we didn't get Lillian Garcia the whole show, because at least one thing, she got kicked out of there. We'll get to that when we get to that. At this time, she was decent, though, as a ring announcer.
And, yeah, we also had Tony Chimmel in there for the main event.
Because of what we'll get to in a little bit.
What we'll get to in a little bit. Also, referees, we have Mike Chioda, Chad Patton, Jack Doan, Earl Hebner, Jim Corderas, Nick Patrick, and Charles Robinson.
And Brian Hebner was actually on this as well.
And he wasn't bebopping.
He was not bebopping. He did a decent job. They all did a good job. This is at the time when the WWF really understood a full contingent of referees make the shows run better, and all these are good ones.
Yeah, opening match, we got the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray Devon, and Spike Dudley, the leader in this one, taking on Billy Kim and Paul London and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, and full disclosure, we both know Paul London. We worked out and trained with him and helped train him a little bit in Capital of Texas Power Wrestling. We worked out down in Austin. Very talented guy, so we do know somebody from this show. But yes, Spike Dudley, who's the Cruiserweight champion with the Dudley Boys, taking on Billy Kidman and Paul London, who were the tag champs at this time, and Rey Mysterio. This was a SmackDown match, so we got stuck with Curly right off the get-go. And that does not take away from this match in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it's right. It's right there. You can turn the directors off. The other one right there. Turn that director off. We don't care what you have to say, director. This match was great, despite the fact that we had to listen to Curly.
Yeah.
The well-paced. This was a fast-paced, but it was a well-paced, very solid, strong match. Excellent storytelling. There was a lot of action, but there wasn't too much action. You were able to pay attention to all of it. It was a great table-setting match. I went 3 1/4.
Wow, you went high on that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great setting of the table. I'm with you on it. I went three stars on this. I felt like this was very good. I love that Spike got his opportunity to actually have a role in this company outside of being the bump bitch.
Yeah, and unfortunately it didn't last long.
Did not.
Because the one unfortunate thing about Spike Dudley, as you see if you ever watch Beyond the Mat, he says he loves taking bumps. Well, he loves taking bumps wrong, too. He used to hurt himself a lot.
Good bit. Yeah, moving along here, the death to you part match.
Till death do us part.
That's right. Kane taking on Matt Hardy. If Kane won the match, Lita had to marry Kane.
It was actually whoever won.
Oh, whoever won the match, excuse me.
Now, while this match was decent, I gave this one 2 3/4 stars. It's really hard to imagine Kane in 2002 was doing the Katie Vick angle, and now here it is in 2004. He's now doing the I raped Lita and she's pregnant with my kid and all that kind of stuff. These storylines came out because of the real life problems that Matt Hardy had with his girlfriend at the time, Lita, who ended up leaving him for Edge. And so I'm not a big fan of, as we've talked about many times, real life bleeding over into suspending disbelief. But this match was decent. It was a lot of fun to watch. The super choke slam, Matt Hardy has made a life and a generation of people who try and hurt themselves by taking these incredible bumps. But it was a lot of fun. 2 3/4 stars. This was a Raw show.
Yeah, I loved it too. I went 2 3/4 stars on this as well. The big thing I loved, though, is aftermath. You know, when this match happened, you know, Kane and Lita had to get married. I love that whole story because she eventually got pregnant, which brung out great.
It's not my fault.
Yes, Gene Snitsky punting a baby to the audience.
It's not my fault. One of the greatest things, unfortunately, the fans turned on it too violently, but Snitsky was awesome.
Yes, and we're trying to get to back now that today's wrestling with TV 14. Maybe we'll see some more of that controversial stuff.
Not too controversial. We don't need some HLA because that was overdone. That was done wrong.
I loved HLA.
It was done wrong.
But yes, so moving along here, we had the best of 5 series here for the U.S. title. John Cena taking on Booker T.
Yeah, they had a little fun segment before this match that Randy Orton was talking, and before he was able to say his name, John Cena, who's still wearing the dog collar, the jerseys, stuck his head in and got the crowd to do the Rock thing talking about, do you like this guy? Do you think he's guy's going to win? And all this stuff. So that was okay.
Yeah.
This match was actually a little slower. It was a downward match, but after the first 2 being really high emotion matches, you needed to come down. And also, this is the first of 5 matches, so you don't want to blow your load, as they say, on the first match because you've got nowhere to go. You want to go up each time, so they did a good job in writing this story that this match was kind of a little boring, kind of a little slow. There wasn't a lot of excitement in this match. but the story behind it said they didn't need a lot, and in this position of the show, they needed a little time to catch a breath. 2.5 stars, but the story was actually better than 2.5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, for the first match in this series, I really enjoyed it. I actually went to 3 stars on this. I felt like this match was a good setting of that because later on, those matches were really good. Booker T had his best of 7 series with Benoit for the
Those
U.S.
were
title.
great, too. The only reason I went down to 2.5, the ending was out of nowhere. The spin-a-rooney, and then John Cena gets him up in the FU. But he held it too long for Booker T, who should have been more alive and active, trying to fight back. It was really an odd out of nowhere.
For you kids, that's the AA as well.
Yes, they call it the AA now because at this time, the PG era, they didn't want the FU, so they called it the attitude adjustment.
Yes. But, yeah, I mean, it was a solid match overall. And moving along here, we've got Edge taking on Batista and Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental Championship.
At this time, Evolution existed. They're about to fall apart.
Evolution was a mystery.
We'll get to them in a little bit about Evolution and their fall apart here. Probably about 4 weeks from now is when they fall apart. So Batista coming out there, he was still kind of green. He hadn't spent long being away from being Deacon Batista and actually being something of consequence. Chris Jericho and his mouse running style and Edge for the IC title. This match was okay. Batista did a decent job of looking like a monster, but not great. Chris Jericho, because Batista was green, Jericho was in the wrong position because Batista was in the wrong position. Edge a few times was in the wrong position because Batista was in the wrong place. So
there was confusion.
It wasn't thrilling, but it was at least decent to watch. You know, there was no horrible effects. Only people who've been involved in wrestling actually get what really happened there as far as people being out of position. I went 2.5 on this one. This was a Raw show. So we got a good commentary team on this one. It was decent.
And that's why I'm going a little higher. The commentary team really carried this match, and I'm going 2 3/4 on that. I mean, I'm happy that Edge won. This was a good start for him in his career. I mean, he's like a couple years removed from the Brood and the corporate ministry and all the other bad stuff that he had to have deal with.
Yes. And I also want to go back to the Booker T. John Cena. This is pre-The Horns. This is pre-John Cena's album. Thank God for that.
Yes, moving along. Good God. Kurt Angle with Luther Reigns, no relation to Roman Reigns, taking on Eddie Guerrero.
All right, so Luther Reigns was a short blip on the WWF radar. He actually started out in WCW at the power plant. He was known as Horseshoe because he decided to cut his hair. Instead of a mohawk this way, he cut the mohawk around the back of his head, but then cut the bottom part away. So he was Horseshoe. He came over here for a short blip as Luther Reigns. He wasn't horrible. They just knew he wasn't very talented, so they made him a bodyguard because he is a big guy. He's done some acting. The biggest thing, if you ever watched the TV show Heroes, he was on Heroes in the 4th season. So he was a decent actor. This match, though, Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle, I'm an Eddie Guerrero fan from the standpoint of he was a great worker. I've always said I don't think he was a Hall of Famer. This match actually changed my opinion of that a little bit. This story was incredible. Now, Eddie forgot to sell a little bit on his ankle, but I didn't hold that against him because this match was a 3.5-star match, and this is the way you do storytelling of an entire program. Starting with Eddie Guerrero was Lie, Cheat, Steal, and Kurt Angle was learning as they progressed the storyline here. So this is an excellent example to those of you who want to book. You don't just want to do a storyline of one or 2 matches. You have to make the entire thing grow. And WWF did a great job here. WWE did a great job here. 3.5-star match. Eddie Guerrero tapped out. But it was hard work to get there. This match was a lot of action, a lot of high impact, and the crowd did not turn on this match, even though WWF had a low point this time in Canada. The crowd loved this one.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing to point out here is this is 2004. Paul Heyman got the chance to be able to take these stars and mold them on SmackDown. There was the big argument that people have heard about where Paul Heyman said, give me these two, give me Mysterio, Chavo, Edge, and Benoit, and I'm going to make them stars, and everybody laughed at him on the Raw side. Everybody went, that's not going to compete with Triple H on Raw and Goldberg at that time and everything else, and look what happened. He actually made them look great. He put the right booking there. The match looked good. The frog splash into the ankle lock was genius. I thought that was a great thing. And look, it's 2022. Paul Heyman is now in the control seat again.
Good.
See,
he needs to be.
We're getting ready to get back to good wrestling, folks.
Because Paul Heyman was the one that built what everybody's talking about now, the Bloodline.
Yes. And now we've got another match here. Triple H, Monday Night Raw, taking on Eugene.
I'm not going to call him Eugene. That's the last time you hear me refer to him. I'm going to do the Vince McMahon thing on him. This is Nick Dinsmore.
Nick Dinsmore, yes.
Mr. Wrestling Nick Dinsmore. If you put him out there in a singles match and you took the Revival as a tag team, they were two old school guys who worked old school. Every single move worked. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of charisma. They made them go out there and look like buffoons, but I cared more about this match. This was Nick Dinsmore. He came out there and did the Nick Dinsmore thing with his jacket on backwards, and Triple H bumped like a fool for him. Now, as we've talked about before, when we talked about things like the X sign, this is one of those times the X sign was done as a ruse. Usually referees don't want to do that because they want the fans to understand when someone is hurt for real. Yes. But every once in a while they fake it. And this is one of those times. But this was a surprisingly good match. Triple H did a great job of putting Nick Dinsmore over. Nick Dinsmore did a good job of making this match mean something.
And Flair and Regal definitely did a good job in this match, making sure the outside was working right.
Yeah, there was a little bit too much of shenanigans going on. As far as people getting involved and running in and stuff like that. There was a little bit too much of that. But it didn't really hurt. Again, Triple H bumped his ass off and made this work good. I went 3 stars on a Nick Dinsmore in the WWE match.
Yeah, I mean, I went 2.5. I felt like this was a really good one. I could bump it up to 3. I felt like this was a really good match for setup. Because it helped later down the line, with Benoit working in there, Randy Orton and Eugene. And everything came together. This is what you want. You didn't need to just have two guys have a feud. You could intertwine them, and things were working well at this point. But now, speaking of which, my 2 finger salutes! Because there was one thing out of place on this show that I get. I get what WWE was trying to do here. They were trying to show off the divas and the dodgeball. Yes, we all love our TNA. But seriously, this had no place on this show.
Yeah, this was the middle of the 2004 Divas Revolution, which gave us Michelle McCool, Christy Hemme, and Maria Kanellis, amongst other. Nydia was here because she came in earlier. But Team Dream, as they call themselves, these were the 6 divas that were...
And don't forget Layla.
Well, okay. Layla was awesome. But she didn't win 04. Or she did win 04. But she was not on this.
No.
I don't know why. But Team Dream was Maria Kanellis, Christy Hemme, Michelle McCool, and then Amy, Tracy, and Joy. The 3 others that lost out that never did anything. Taking on Team Diva with Coach Trish Stratus. And they had Molly Holly, Jazz, Stacy Keibler, Gail Kim, Nydia, and Victoria. And I've got one nice thing to say about this thing. It was dumb, but it was short. Can we move on?
Yeah, but there's one thing I got to point out about the Eugene thing, because he did something good. You know what Eugene did?
What's that?
You suck!
Yes.
You suck!
Yeah, that was awesome. And that's where we also, going back to that, that's where we also lost Lillian Garcia because Triple H used her as a shield, and she didn't hurt herself, but they kayfabe she hurt herself to get her off TV, so...
Okay, moving along here. WWE Championship, we had John Bradshaw Layfield taking on The Undertaker.
Yeah, this was a SmackDown match. As I've said in the past, the only time I cared about JBL was when he put on a white hat. That's not to say he was a great worker. He falls into the same category as Hulk Hogan of the gimmick was better than the work. And JBL was a master at pissing people off and doing a great job. And yes, he's kind of an ass in real life. But The Undertaker taking on JBL, this is at the time, he's the business tycoon. He comes out in the white hat, the long stretch limo. And he had a chief of staff named Orlando Jordan. Orlando Jordan had a career of about 9 years in wrestling. He started sometime around 99. He retired in 08. He runs a wrestling school in Australia now. He was not very good, but he was controversial. Then he went to TNA and he started wearing caution tape around himself and just kind of failed from there. And thank God he's out of the wrestling business. But he's the chief of staff, and he got over-involved in this match. It really hurt the flow of this match, how often he was involved. JBL won this match by DQ. It took too long to get to the ref bump. Once they got to the ref bump, which was about 2/3 of the way through the match, the action really picked up, and this match was really, really strong and solid storytelling. But it took too long to get there. It kind of hurt the rating. I only went 2.5 on this one. It was a better match, but it really drug too much with Orlando Jordan. It really hurt the flow.
I went up a little bit. I went to 3 stars. And all what you're saying is correct, but the big thing that got me at the end was The Undertaker with the blood, wiping it on the casket, on the hearse, rather.
He wiped it on his chest.
His chest, rather, yeah. You see all that blood out there. That scene right there really just caught my eyes. But, yeah, I mean, overall, it was okay.
I'll go 2 3/4 with you.
There we go. We'll make it there. We'll make it 2 3/4. But now I'm going to get into my quack attack because this man right here was involved in the match. Chris Benoit taking on Randy Orton. Randy Orton was the man here, very young. In fact, if he won the title, he would be the youngest world champion.
That's correct, because at this time, prior to this match, the youngest world heavyweight champion was Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar was on his way out the door because of wanting to go play football. He didn't like the grind, he didn't like the work, and he also didn't like being the Brock Lesnar that you saw in 2004. So WWF was quick to pivot to Randy Orton, even though he really wasn't ready, just because he was 3 weeks younger than Brock Lesnar.
I'd say the best part of this match was the entire, just flowed. One moved after the next. And, that finish where Orton hits that RKO, I'm thinking he's going to hit the crossface. It's going to be over, and he just turns that around. I was like, this was an incredible match for me. I gave this 4 stars. I felt like this was one of the best SummerSlam matches. I usually say this. SummerSlam does not have the best main event. Hi, Mabel. Hi, Diesel. But, they don't usually have great main events. It's just the way it is. But this one was great.
Yeah, usually the SummerSlam main events, because the people who have kids, the workers who have kids, are trying to make sure their family is ready for the next school year, so they usually don't care and focus at this time. It's basically Christmas in July, Christmas in August kind of thing. This was definitely an exception. I also went 4 stars. This match was solid work intensity. As I said on the last one, Chris Benoit is one of my favorite workers of all time. If it could have been him versus Mr. Perfect, if that would have ever happened, take my money, please.
Yeah, and the ending of that where, Orton's celebrating, Benoit comes in, you could tell that he was having pain in his neck. You could see it, but he still came in to shake his hand.
Yeah, that was a great thing. It wasn't really a passing of the torch thing. It was more of just, you've made it, kid, now don't ruin it. And the unfortunate thing is, some 3 years later, the eraser takes place, and now we can't talk about this guy.
Yeah, we can't mention him. But we can mention him. That's right, Chris Benoit. But that's the end of our show here.
We had a good one here.
We did.
So let me ask, are we done with SummerSlam for a while?
Yes. Would you actually like to know what's next? Because we're going to be doing 5 of this series. 5 of this series. And we're going to start from the beginning.
The second one is so much better. The second one is so much better.
Well, we're going with the original to start there.
Why not?
That's right. I'm Dr. Quack.
I'm sorry. This first one makes me... Get us out of here.
We're out.